everyone, I'm Georgia and this is The Sound of Georgia. Today I'm going to be talking about Julie's Greenroom. So I've wanted to make this video for a while, but it required me to rewatch the series, and I got rid of my Netflix account because I just wasn't using it enough. So I couldn't do it. But since they just released the final To All the Boys I've Loved Before movie, I decided to hijack my dad's account for a bit so I could watch that, and I thought I may as well watch Julie's Greenroom while I'm at it so I can make this video. I love this show. It is so cute and so wonderful, even if it is for really young children, like preschool age children. So here's the pitch. Julie plays not herself but really herself. She's got a different backstory, but in all other ways, she's Julie. And she runs a small theatre company and has 5 adorable pupils who just happen to be Jim Henson puppets. And the show tells kids all about the theatre and the performing arts and the many facets of it. And yes, preschool audience, but I'm not ashamed to say that I love it as an almost 26-year-old. Even if Julie's not in it an awful lot, all things considered. More on that in a sec. So, as with many shows, it has a very simple formula. Julie and her assistant Gus, who I'm going to have to look up the name of the actor because it's really hard to pronounce. Gillian? I don't know. I'm bad at pronunciation. I think it's probably Julian Yao Giorgello. I'll have the picture on the screen. They arrive at the theatre and talk about what's going to be happening that day. Then all the greenies arrive and they tell them what's going to be happening that day. Then it's to the stage for the warm-up. At this time Julie disappears because she's got the biggest case of imposter syndrome in the known universe and she doesn't want people watching the show because she's in it, even though I imagine that's exactly why half the people are watching it. I know that's the reason I watched it. Then we have the celebrity guest arrive to teach the greenies a masterclass. They are usually an alum of this fictional theatre program. I guess when you graduate from this theatre company, you stop being a puppet and turn into a fully fledged human. And we learn a little bit about that celebrity guest. The masterclass gets going. Then they take a break for a bit and show a video of kids in the real world who do this particular activity. One of the greenies gets self-conscious, they get cheered up, the masterclass continues and then ends, and everyone goes home. Yes, again, the target audience is for preschoolers, and for that target audience, I think this show is perfect. Not only does the show teach you all about the many elements of the arts in a general sense, but it also teaches you how to deal with those elements on a personal level. For example, when they all get their parts for the play, Perry, who's the actress and the diva, she's actually really nice. She gets a little annoying at a couple of moments, but overall, for the diva, she's actually really nice. Anyway, when they get their parts for the play, she's unhappy with hers because she wanted to be the princess and she gets cast as the ogre. So that's the episode where she gets upset, and the lesson learned is how to deal with things like that. What happens when you get the part you don't really want? But while we're on the topic of the greenies, let's talk about them. These puppets are amazing. Each greenie has a very distinct and unique personality. Each of the greenies has a very distinct and unique personality, and the puppeteers do an amazing job. You really feel like these characters are alive, and it's only after you've stopped watching that you almost have to remind yourself that these guys weren't moving of their own accord. Most of the time, all the evidence that they're puppets is almost completely invisible. Really, the only time you ever see the sticks that are used to work them is when they have to raise their arms. The other thing about them is that the cast is so diverse. This show has so much diversity, and the majority of the cast are Jim Henson puppets. So the 5 greenies we have are Perry, Spike, Fizz, Riley, and Hank. Perry's Asian, Spike's black, Fizz is, I want to say Latino, but I'm not entirely sure. We find out in one of the final episodes when they're getting all their costumes ready that her family's from Mexico, and that actually works its way into her costume, which is very nice. So I want to say Latino, but I'm honestly not sure. Her family's from Mexico. Diversity. Riley, I believe, is gender non-conforming. I'm pretty sure that's what I remember reading when the show first came out. And even if you want to say Riley doesn't really check off the diversity box, that's 1 in 5 greenies who's not. Because the final one, Hank, is in a wheelchair. And none of these elements are the characters. And the things that make them diverse never get brought up at all. Really, the only times they're ever brought up at all across all 5 of them is, as I said, when they're making the costumes and Fifth decides she wants her princess costume to resemble an Aztec warrior, and the episode about ballet, which is the episode where Hank gets self-conscious. Hank is my favourite. And yes, Hank is in a wheelchair, but the only time that's mentioned is in the episode about ballet, and that's because, well, he doesn't know if he can do ballet because he's in a wheelchair. And a lot of the time, well, ballet involves your legs. Of course, he absolutely can do ballet, as that's exactly what the episode shows. The video they show in that episode is not actually specifically about kids, but about a group of disabled ballet dancers. That's the only time in the entire series where Hank being in a wheelchair is drawn to attention. And obviously, in the context of the episode, that's part of what it's trying to teach. The rest of the time, he's the sports-loving piano player. Also, there's a duck. As I said, Julie's not in it a whole lot. Most of the Greenies' interactions with people who aren't the celebrity guests is with Gus. And trust me, that has far less to do with the fact that Julie can't really sing anymore than it does to do with the fact that she doesn't want people watching the show because she's in it. She wants people to watch the show to learn about the arts, not to watch Julie Andrews. But even for the Julie fans, that's not a big deal, because Gus is lots of fun, and he has a really beautiful voice. Speaking of which, the soundtrack is amazing. All the songs are wonderful and so catchy. I've had the theme song in my head for the past 3 days. Everybody come on in, it's time to make a scene. There were a couple of moments where the explanation of this particular part of theatre just annoyed me the tiniest bit, but that has absolutely nothing to do with the show itself. That has to do with the fact that I'm almost 26 and I'm watching a show that's aimed at 5-year-olds. So being very different from the target audience, I found those things a bit dragging, but that's not the show itself, that's just me. For the little ones, it's perfect. If you've got Netflix and want to know more about the theatre, definitely give this one a watch. Especially if you're a little kid or have a kid to watch it with you. But even if you're not a little kid, try watching an episode or two. The second to last episode where they're rehearsing the final play is hilarious. And that's all I've got for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you've watched Julie's Green Room and who's your favourite Greenie. Mine's Hank, obviously, because he's disabled, but also not because he's disabled. For me, seeing the representation of a disabled character means a lot more to me personally than some of the other diversity, and honestly, wheelchair or not, I think he is the sweetest character. But let me know what you think. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my video next week. So long for a while!